Alright, what's going on guys, it's Panda here. We got new characters revealed for 1.4, so today I just briefly want to go over their kits and how to optimize them, and go over who you should really pull for in terms of your account, and I'm just going to go over about who I'm personally going to pull for my account. So without further ado, let's get into it. So starting off with Jingliu, in terms of skill point consumption, first and foremost, she's kind of the middle ground between Blade and Danny, because Blade has to use one skill per 3 turns. Danny always wants to use 3 skills every time his turn comes up. So Jingliu is sort of in that middle ground where she wants to use a couple of skill points per a couple of turns, just so she can have her best parts of her kit really shine out and do more damage. So starting off with her skill is just a simple single target that gains 1 stack of syzygy. Now the syzygy is really important because it ties in with her talent, because once she has 2 stacks of those syzygy, she enters into an enhanced state which increases her crit rate and gives her an enhanced skill. The enhanced skill is a blast attack that only consumes the stacks of syzygy she has, so she doesn't consume skill points in this 2-turn window because she has 2 stacks of those, but she also consumes a percentage of her ally's HP, and this consumption increases her attack based on how much total HP she's consumed. And if we zoom in on the footage real quick, it doesn't look like she takes a lot of HP, so that's something to keep in mind if you're worrying about if she'll exactly compromise the entire team, because it doesn't look like she takes that much at all. Finally, her ult just deals blast damage, but the most important thing about this is it gives her a stack of syzygy. So going into her optimal rotation, once you're in that enhanced state, you use both of your stacks up, and then you ult to give her another stack of the syzygy. That way she can have 3 turns in this enhanced state instead of the typical 2. Finally, her technique creates a freeze field around her in the overworld, and when you enter battle with her, she regens a couple of energy and she gains a stack of syzygy. So when you start out on her turn, you only have to use 1 skill point, then you're in her enhanced state. So what's the best value for pulling Jingliu on your account? The main thing will be ice coverage, especially if you don't have Yanqing, because she will be a really solid option, like top tier option for that ice coverage in most of the content. And speaking of Yanqing, she will power creep him because destruction right now is just going through the craziest power creep phases. It's ridiculous. We've had Blade, then Danny, now Jingliu, so just assume that she'll power creep Yanqing in this regard. In addition, if you just need a simple plug-and-play damage dealer, and if you already have enough support, she'll be really good. You just have to get a simple 4-piece set, just build her up nicely to be a nice damage dealer if you don't have enough of them already. Finally, if you have Blade, then you should really consider pulling Jingliu, because the dual carry team with those two might be one of the best teams in the game, because you have 2 high damage dealing characters and both of them help each other out, specifically Jingliu with Blade, because his lore accurate HP drain will allow him to get his follow-up stacks faster. A couple of tips of caution, however, for Jingliu will be a potential for higher power creep if another ice damage dealer that's even crazier than her comes out, so she doesn't really have that much potential outside of just being a really nice damage dealer. So this will come like later in the game. It won't come out instantly in like the next couple of months, but that's something to keep in the back of your head if you do decide to pull on Jingliu. And she's not really necessary to pull for it if you have enough damage dealers. Moving on to Gunaifen's kit, and I swear, like, she's literally the combination of Yoimiya and Kiara. Like, I don't know how they were able to take 2 fire-based characters or whoever and just combine them together to cook up this character. I mean, literally cook, because they're all fire-based, but basically, she is the allotted burn dot damage dealer for this game. So they're going down that route of releasing dot-based characters, like Luca we already had, and now we have Gunaifen. So the main reason for releasing these dot damage dealers is to give Kafka or another type of dot enabler in the future to have more options in terms of having a sub DPS. Starting off, her skill just deals blast fire damage with a base chance of inflicting burn. However, one of her traces will allow her basic attack to apply burn too. So she's really similar to Sampo in this case, where you don't always have to skill on their turn to apply that dot. Her talent applies a fire kiss debuff when the enemy is burned, and that will increase the damage they take. and this looks like a stackable debuff, so we'll see how much that exactly stacks up to. Finally, her ultimate will deal AoE fire damage, and if the enemies burn, she will re-trigger that burn dot and immediately deal that damage. Also, her technique will attack 4 times on random enemies and will apply a fire kiss debuff depending on who she hits at the start of the battle. So her best value lies in giving Kafka another great option for a sub dot dealer. And like I said before, the game is really focusing on making dot sub DPSs to boost Kafka's damage and allow her to have more variety. Outside of Kafka, however, there's no real purpose to using Gunaifen. She won't really shine in scenarios that don't deal with damage over time. Now we got Topaz and Numby. We got this IRS lady getting ready to make Bronya pay 700 years worth of tax. She don't give 2 fucks. But I feel like she has the most interesting kit out of the 3 characters because she's a hunt character that focuses on follow-up attacks. She's the first of the kind in that path. So the main crux of her kit is in her talent. So Numby summoned at the start of the battle, and an enemy will have a proof of debt debuff applied, which increases all follow-up damage. When Topaz attacks that enemy with that debuff, or if an ally uses a follow-up attack on that said enemy, Numby's action is forwarded. So this is the perfect solution to Lightning Lord's speed and CC issues, because having that follow-up attacker's action separate from Topaz allows them to go even when the main character is CC'd. Also, one thing to note from the footage, Topaz's basic attack actually also advanced Numby forward, so that counts as a follow-up attack, and this means that she'll be really skill point efficient, as you don't have to use her skill every single time to proc Numby's advance forward. The skill is just the same Numby attack, but this will allow her to reallocate that depth debuff to another enemy. Finally, with her ult, Numby enters an enhanced state where damage and crit damage increases, and he gains 2 enhanced attacks. And the main thing is when any ally attacks with a basic skill or an ultimate, Numby's action will be forwarded. So this is really useful for when supports just have to auto attack. Numby's action will be forwarded and will allow him to use that enhanced attack. So in terms of account value, in my opinion, she has the most for whatever account you have, because she basically plays the same role as Kafka as a specific type of enabler. So Kafka enables a lot of dot damage to proc as soon as she attacks. Topaz and Numby will work really synergistically with follow-up attackers, because not only does she increase follow-up damage, other allies will benefit Topaz and Numby by allowing Numby to attack even further. And a couple of characters that come to mind that can work really well with Topaz and Numby are definitely Clara, Himeko, Jingliu, and hell, I think March will be a really good sustainer for Topaz, because her follow-up attack will just make Numby go like every single cycle. Some other characters worth noting are Kafka and Blade, even though Kafka specifically doesn't have any other synergies with Topaz outside of that follow-up attack. It's still pretty interesting to see those 2 work together in a comp. Now I'll talk about Blade's synergy in a minute. In addition, she's also the first fire damage dealer that will be open to everyone, because I know damn well y'all motherfuckers ain't building your hooks. Even though you can say that you're a proud mole supporter, you're not using hook at all for sure. And also Himiko's is just a standard banner 5 stars, so not a lot of people will have her in the first place. So Topaz just provides a lot of value for being the first limited fire damage dealer. The main thing that will be going against her, however, is her being compared to other damage dealers that have already came out, who are basically stronger than her. Like, we already have 3 destruction characters that are going to do insane damage already, so she'll be compared to those, obviously, because she's a damage dealer, and her value won't necessarily be realized in that sense, because she'll be compared to Danny's, the Kafkas, and the Blades, and even the Jinglius, because not only because she's a hunt path going up against destruction characters, people will just be comparing the damage numbers between her and other characters that have already came out. So her value as a damage dealer isn't as high as previous characters that came out. And I'm not saying she'll do good damage, like she'll thrive in being a hyper carry spot regardless, because she is a 5-star character that can do a lot of fire damage based on follow-up attacks. So just one thing to note about is just the damage comparison between her and other characters. So personally for me, between the two 5-star banners, I will be going for Topaz Numby because of two main factors. One, I got Yanqing from losing my Fushuan 50-50, and I also don't have a really good fire damage dealer. So just getting that security of having Topaz right there will just benefit my account in general. Also, I'm broke as hell, so I can't go for everyone at this point. Now, a very interesting team that I'm personally excited to explore is having a Blade and Topaz dual carry with Lynx and another support. Now, I already said before that for Blade mains you'd want to get Jingliu, but I'm personally not getting Jingliu because I already said I already have Yanqing. But the value between those two isn't as better as between Topaz and Blade. So Blade's follow-up attack is not the main thing about his kit, but it's still a very crucial part to doing his overall damage. And having Lynx use her skill on Blade will allow him to get his follow-up much faster and in turn get Numby's attacks rolling a lot quicker. The practicality of this team is pretty suspect without Lynx, so I don't know how those two, how Blade and Topaz will work outside of having Lynx. It'll still be a really good comp in scenarios where the enemy's weak to fire and wind, because you'll just have two crazy damage dealers just going one after the other. But with having Lynx in that party will really get both of them going. I'll go more in depth on Topaz's best supports and best characters to synergize with in a later video, because she has a lot of depth in terms of who can be in a party with her. So that just about wraps up this video. Leave a comment on who you're going to pull for in 1.4, and I wish you guys the best of luck, and I'll see you guys later.